Hi there, Jason Miller here, and it's January 17th, 2022, I think, yeah. And this is my video channel, The Truth and Stuff, and today I'm going to do a video. I think I'm going to title it Dexter New Blood Theories Confirmed. And there's some good news, but I don't know what I'll title it yet. I just got done watching all 9 seasons of Dexter. The finale of the last season, season 9, just ended about a week ago, and so I've been like consumed by this show and for the last, I don't know, couple of weeks, a few weeks, it's taken me to watch all 9 seasons and and then watch the last season again. And so I've got some notes here. I think I'm in a good place to really give this review, and I think I know where the show's going. I think I know what they tried to do, and I got about 5 pages here, so I'm gonna go over a lot of things that you actually haven't heard, because my expertise in filmmaking gives me a lot of insights other people just won't have. And so if you like filmmaking, you might like this video. If you like the show Dexter, you might like this video. Other than that, I'm not sure you'd really be that interested. Might be a few interesting things, but yeah, so I just finished just now, the finale of 9, season 9, New Blood again. And after watching it again, I do understand the ending. It's not entirely just the worst possible ending. But, so, and to explain that a little, Harrison obviously shoots Dexter through the heart and drives off kind of unemotionally, and that's pretty disappointing. But, the idea that Dexter comes to this realization that, all these people whose lives he's destroyed, like Rita, right? I mean, it is Dexter's fault. Rita's dead, Harrison's mom, if he wouldn't have been stalking Trinity the way he did, or if he'd have killed Trinity sooner, Trinity would have never even been aware of Dexter, and there would have been no reason to go to his house and kill Rita. I mean, that's Dexter's fault in a way, just because of who he is. Deborah, he's not responsible for killing Deborah at all, or for Deborah dying. That was really her own fault. She walked in on that guy who, in the final season 8, who was the son of the psychologist, the sociopath, the serial killer, and he shot her. She should have been more careful or whatever. She's a cop, that's kind of on her. But let's see here. Lundy, he was the FBI guy. Not really Dexter's fault, Lundy was there to hunt Trinity, I think. Yeah, Trinity. And, Trinity's daughter shot him. So, maybe if Dexter would have killed Trinity sooner, or I don't know how you really blame that on Dexter exactly. But Dokes, which is my favorite character, but Dexter's responsible for Dokes dying, obviously. I mean, it was, what's her name? The witch lady, or, the really pale one. That killed Dokes, and that was Dexter's fault too. And then obviously, Logan, that's clearly Dexter's fault. He snapped his neck. But, and so, Dexter realized that, boy, it's my fault that all these people are dead, and that Harrison's life's screwed up, and for Harrison to have any chance at a normal life, I gotta die. It's okay. It's an okay ending, But yeah, let's let us get into that. Oh, and then by letting Harrison shoot him, obviously Dexter proves his love for Harrison finally. You know, like in his letter, he says, you know, unless Harrison shows any dark tendencies, just let me die. His letter to, my favorite lady character, what's her name? The Poisoner. Hannah, yeah. So let's get into it. Dexter New Blood theories confirmed. And there is some good news at the end here. So, I watched the entire Dexter, rewatched it, including season 9, to confirm many of my theories, and many of my theories were confirmed, okay? Now, I did say I liked the ending, or I thought it was okay, right? But I'm going to rip into New Blood right now because I think it deserves it. And maybe I'm wrong. You could tell me I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong about some of this stuff. I mean, you know, the finale was like the worst ranked show in the whole franchise, right? So I'm not wrong. A lot of people didn't like New Blood. So the first, and I think the most important thing, is I'm now convinced that one or both of the following things are true, okay? Number one, season 9 was mostly just screwed up due to way subpar writing, okay? Now, this can happen when writers, you know, filmmakers, producers, whatever you want to call them, the people in charge of the dialogue and the sets and everything, but primarily writing, you know. Films start and end with the writing. They really do. It's the map for a film. And so, you know, there's a lot of ways you can screw it up. Old age, you know, fallibility. I mean, some people just aren't talented enough, right? I mean, obviously, whoever's handling the first 8 seasons were talented enough because those were awesome. But this 9th season, you know, obviously not talented enough, or that's most likely the case. So old age, fallibility, pretentiousness, lack of budget, lack of enthusiasm and inspiration, poor planning, poor production design, and inserting political propaganda could add, all of this could add to the poor writing, okay? So now what I'm going to do is go through a number of ways the writing was very, very poor, okay? So let's start with Michael C. Hall. So, you know, him and other filmmakers are on record saying that Michael Hall contributed to the writing, okay? I believe, you know, creative script input was probably in his contract, and I believe he probably took advantage of it. Now, I don't know this, but, you know, though it didn't turn out to be an advantage, if that's what happened. So, you know, he really should have just left it to the writers. But I don't think he did, and I believe that was probably one reason the writing on the show was very poor. Okay, being a decent actor doesn't mean he's a good writer. Different disciplines altogether, okay? You know, a lot of disciplines just don't translate, right? Just because you're a good producer doesn't mean you're going to be a good writer. Just because you're a good actor doesn't mean you're going to be a good producer. Just because you're going to be, you know, you're a good writer doesn't mean you'll be a good actor. And they just don't necessarily translate. And, you know, I mean, even, you know, writers from other disciplines like newspaper reporters or poets or, you know, feature length or, books, you know, book writers, novelists, they don't necessarily write the best movies because it's a, you know, it's a particular discipline, writing for the screen, okay? Yeah, that's why these people have different jobs. So, you know, or maybe they had, you know, just some kind of writers behind the scenes for the first 8 seasons that didn't get the credit they should have, or didn't get brought on for 9 or something. Because the first 8 seasons of Dexter were really quite brilliant, okay? Season 9, New Blood was not. Yeah, so there are just way too many problems with season 9 for it to be handled or written by really quality writers, okay? And so we're going to get into that now. So to start with Dexter's character, okay? There are so many things about Dexter that he does differently than he did in the original series, okay? And I'm going to go through a lot of those things now. So, I understand him being a different guy after 10 years, but it's foolish to change him so much. I mean, he's constantly making mistakes, okay? They basically changed him from, the most effective vigilante assassin and prolific serial killer in motion picture history to a doofus, and that wasn't really appealing to the audience, I don't think. But okay, so let's just go through some things. He's constantly making mistakes, okay, like how he buried and dug up Matt's body 3 times right next to the fire pit on his property. I mean, the old Dexter would have never done that. That's the spot where everyone hangs out if they come over, is by the fire pit. And they even set up, their tent camp, the cops did, right by the fire pit there. I mean, the old Dexter would have had to have an aneurysm to bury that body there. Dexter never left any evidence anywhere, ever. Maybe the smallest, slightest little slip-ups here and there, but nothing like, I'm going to bury the body right in the centerpiece of my property. That's not Dexter. That's somebody else. That's some doofus, Dexter that's just a different guy, okay? Or he kept that titanium screw in his house, which was evidence of Matt's murder, right? I mean, Dexter would never do that. He would put that thing at the bottom of the ocean, or somewhere where no one would ever find it. Or, because they found his bodies at the bottom of the ocean, but I'm saying somewhere good, somewhere decent, like a little screw. He would have gotten rid of that thing. Why is he hanging on to that? What's the point, right? So those are a couple of his mistakes, and there's lots more, but I don't have 10 hours to do this video, so I'm gonna try to get through it. He's easily pushed around. You can watch the season for a lot of that too. It's like Cuck City, especially the first 2 episodes. I mean, he's even got he even calls his girlfriend mistress. It's weird. It's really weird. It's not Dexter. I mean, I guess I can kind of see him going that way because he's changed, right? But I'll keep going. He gets rattled under pressure. He doesn't think quickly on the fly. He doesn't prepare well. He's not prepared at all for any of this. He doesn't really follow his code. Okay, he didn't have one clean kill until the end when he killed Kurt. And I forget what he did with Kurt, but that seemed pretty clean, except he had Harrison there to watch him, right? I mean, that didn't turn out well for him. But yeah, just super sloppy, right? And of course, the terrible haircut. I mean, why change Dexter to look so unlikable, right? I mean, what's with that toupee? Which just was awful looking, not likable at all, and so, and then of course he's got a stupid, stressed out grimace on his face the entire time, right? That's not the Dexter we knew. We knew Dexter where he'd get a genuine smile every once in a while, at least, and, he was happy to some extent a lot of the time, but just all season 9, he was miserable, okay? Maybe half smiles when he's like proud of Harrison briefly, or something, but no real joy, you know, which Dexter had plenty of in the original series. Very rare, very rarely do we get the feeling where, you know, Dexter's on the hunt, right? The suspense. You know, so I think there's one other thing I wanted to say about Dexter being happy, and I think that's later on in here. So, you know, where Dexter would stalk his targets so diligently, you know, the suspense of that. Okay, he hadn't identified Kurt as a terrible serial killer, even though he lived years in Iron Lake, and his girlfriend, the sheriff, was obsessed with the case of the missing girls. You know, that's just not Dexter, right? I mean, Dexter is, he's just like the bloodhound of all bloodhound. He sniffs out serial killers like no other. That's what he does. That's who he is. And so this Dexter is a different guy, okay? So again, yeah, it took him several episodes to even realize it was Kurt. You know, even though girls were going missing right under his nose. And we already knew that Kurt was the bad guy for like several episodes before Dexter even did. You know, we almost, you know, I just don't know how I felt about that. You know, it's like Dexter, what was wrong with Dexter, you know? But yeah, that's just not him at all. And so, yeah, he's just not crafty at all throughout the series. Like he's not in control of his destiny the way he often was, you know, he'd really just take control. But yeah, he's just like along for the ride in season 9, you know, like nothing, like everything's out of his hands. You know, he doesn't even walk or carry himself the same way. Probably my favorite line from the original series, which also happens to come from my favorite character, is Sergeant Dokes. You know, Sergeant Dokes says to Dexter, he says, "You don't even walk like a normal person. You glide around like a lizard on ice." And that's totally true, you know. Dexter, in the new season 9, he skulks around, his shoulders are slumped, you know, he even kind of runs like this. I mean, that is so different. It's a different guy, okay? And so, I mean, yeah, anyways. Yeah, so they, if you can see where I'm going with this, they made Dexter intentionally unlikable. Okay, not only did they change him a lot, but, you know, Dexter used to be likable. That's why we could watch him. You know, that's why we root for him. That's why we generally root for our main character, our protagonist. But they intentionally made Dexter unlikable, I think maybe so they could justify killing him. I don't know. But I'll get to that. So, you know, one of the most obvious ways, you know, is okay, look at the Christmas present he got for Angela, a cop book, right? It's just a lame thing that, you know, it makes him look stupid. Why did he get her such a stupid gift? I mean, even in the show, they're like, "Wow, that's a stupid gift, Dexter." You know, like, it's crazy. But, you know, or obviously snapped Logan's neck. I mean, that was a stupid thing to do. You know, and it's not like Dexter just did that, okay? Dexter is a fictional character we're talking about, so someone wrote him to do that. So the question is, why did the writers write him to do that? And the answer is really simple, in my mind anyway. It's to make him unlikable, right? I mean, it's very obvious to me that they were trying, that, you know, they wanted the audience to turn on Dexter in this season. So, you know, and there are many subtle things throughout season 9 that make him unlikable. Let's see here, from his bad hair to his mouth chewing, to his pasty skin. Notice he didn't have that nice tan anymore. And granted, he's in the whole season's dark. They're all wearing dark clothes and dark camera angles and not well lit, and it's there's no brightness to it the way there was in Miami in the original series, and that's fine, but at the same time, his pasty skin doesn't look good, and the way he skulks around, and his stressed out, angry scowls, and the fact that he no longer has any confidence or that he ever smiles. Okay. Yeah, I'll get into a little more here. So, good writing generally brings the conflict levels up and down, right? They call it rising conflict when a character experiences greater and greater opposition as time goes on, but they generally give you a breather. Okay, so the conflict rises and then it comes down, and it rises more and then it comes down again and rises, but in Dexter, there was no moments of levity, really, where the character gets a breather and relaxes and achieves some kind of success. It's all just stress. Does that make sense? He's got little victories here and there, but it's not nearly enough. When you watch movies like that, it's not generally enjoyable experience for the audience, because it's hard to explain. You end up kind of like this, or you just kind of get sick of watching it because it's so down. Does that make sense? It's all like really harsh. Generally they give you some kind of hope or some kind of like moments in the sun, or like, just a moment to relax before they move to the next scenes. You can kind of think of the movie Speed. I think it had Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. I think it was Michael Bay that did that movie, but I'm not sure. But that's one of those movies that's very intense the whole time. Well, that was season 9, kind of. It was just really intense, no break. And you really, I think, as a writer, as a filmmaker, you want to give your audiences little breaks. That you want your audience to have fun, right? So, and season 9 was never like that. But the original series was. It was great like that. In the original series, he constantly had moments of peacefulness where he was relaxed and, comfortable. And there was zero of that in New Blood, none. Another thing is that all these microphones use some, audio recording mics. They use something called a condenser that makes someone's voice either sound deeper or more high-pitched. It can kind of change your voice when it's recorded. I don't have one. What you're hearing is my voice, but I don't have a microphone. I'm just using an iPhone. But, and when we get older, our voices tend to get deeper and more raspy, right? More manly almost, more mature. But the opposite was true of Dexter in this season 9, okay? Some of that might have been due to his new singing career, I guess, but at the same time, they really should have been able to bring out that nice old deep voice of Dexter's. In the original eight seasons, he had that great voice, just a fantastic voice for voiceover and all that. That's probably one of the reasons he originally got the job, is because of how good his voice was. It was really kind of sexy and just like deep. Deeper than mine, an octave lower than my voice is. And, just really just very good. And we didn't get that in season 9. It was almost squeaky at times, like kind of thing, and that just was not going to be endearing to the audience. Okay. His old voice was so much nicer. And so I think that that's really a way that the filmmakers tried to make him more unlikable, okay? And I think that was a really bad strategy, honestly. But, yeah, just almost creepy, like creepy voice in a way, Dexter. And everything about him is kind of creepy this season. I don't know. He's always creepy, obviously, but just, I don't know. He's also cussing in this new season, and he never cussed in the first 8 seasons, so why is he cussing now? I guess his conscience of Deborah Morgan kind of rubbed off on him, right? So now he's cussing, but it's not a likable thing. You know, I mean, some people like it. I don't mind it, but I think, I think it's just something, again, to make him a little less likable. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, I certainly sympathize with Dexter, but I just don't think that's enough to like him. You know, he's got Deborah bitching at him. He's got all these problems. He's trying to run from the cop and, not get caught. And he's got Harrison, who's a total pain in the ass. And he's really struggling to try to be a good dad and, get his life together and all that. And so we sympathize with Dexter, but do we like him, right? I don't think sympathy is enough. I think we really want to like our protagonist. That is generally the formula for a movie, okay? So here's a secret. You get a clear, you get a strong character, and then you give him a clear and established goal, okay? And then, during the course of the film, you create opposition to that goal, right? Rising conflict, rising opposition. He achieves these goals, and then you get the big bad at the end, and he solves that problem, and you do that both physically and with a character arc often, and that's the general formula for a movie, right? But we want to root for that strong character. Otherwise, what's the point? Right? Does that make sense? And so to make him unlikable, I think was a really bad move, in my opinion. So, but the big takeaway here is that Dexter in season 9 was not really Dexter. He was someone else. And so, in a way, this was a show about someone else. And so, that's kind of the good news here, is that, this really wasn't actually Dexter. But I'll get to that at the very end here, okay? This was a different character, a stranger almost. Someone less important to us, someone we didn't care about as much, someone who we just didn't root for the way we rooted for Dexter in the series. So, yeah, look, and come to think of it, all the men, the boys, all the male characters in the film, or in Dexter New Blood, were super depressing. Okay, let me just go through this. Matt, of course, which is the rich prick who, Dexter killed in the beginning. He was a druggie, and he ended up dead, right? And he was miserable. He'd already killed some people in a boating accident, and, he's just kind of an asshole. Kind of a depressing guy. Matt's friend with the scar on his face was pathetic. Okay, Kurt, he's the sick serial killer who ends up dying, obviously, Dexter on Dexter's table in front of Harrison, which was very kind of just a down, I don't know why, it was a down scene. Because Harrison had to watch that, I guess. It was depressing. But, and of course, all Dexter's victims are miserable and end up dead. Harris's his first friend, who was that nerd who was getting picked on, he ended up getting, Harrison slashed his leg up or something, and he ended up moving out of town. All the boys, that were picking on him were, douchebags and drunks and druggies and just kind of bullies. They were bullies and they were pathetic, Logan was kind of upbeat, but, he ended up getting his neck broken, right? The other cop was just kind of a dumbass. He had one episode where he had his wisdom teeth pulled and he's walking around like, oh, I'm so miserable. And let's see here. And of course, there's Harrison, who, makes it away in the end, but, he was the most miserable of all throughout the whole season. He, just always unhappy and needy and complaining and angsty and pissed off and confused and, it's just so down, right? For all the men. And, we have sympathy for Harrison, again, but does that mean we like him? I don't think sympathy is enough. At least it's not for me. Like the scene where he's getting hit with the baseballs. Do you remember that? Where, Kurt is loading the pitching machine and Harrison just stands there and gets hit by like 10 baseballs in a row or whatever it is right there. And he just keeps taking it. What a great metaphor for the men in this New Blood season. They're all just miserable. Was that a fun scene to watch with the baseballs? No, that scene was no fun. It was like, ew, what are you doing? Oh, why? Why are you doing that, That's kind of how I felt about the whole frickin' season. But, yeah, even Batista's pathetic. He hits on Angela at the conference, right? And he turns out to be married. He answers the phone. It's, hi, I'm Angela from the conference. And he's like, oh, well, I'm a happily married man. I didn't mean to give you the impression. How pathetic is that? He was married at that conference. I don't know if he's wearing his wedding ring or not, but he was definitely, and then he's just like, oh, gosh, it's just, nothing too much upbeat about even Batista. And while, of course, all the women are all empowered and beautiful and strong and effective throughout most of the show, right? There were some female victims, but I'm talking about the way they were portrayed. Like Angela, obviously the big, huge hero, and Angela's daughter, was the hero, or just really, the climate activist and just really a sound person, pretty happy all the time. And, the podcaster, right? She did end up a victim, but bright, smiling, cheery, wealthy, doing well for herself, exposing the truth, You see what I'm saying here? The men were all down and dopey and miserable, and all the women were upbeat and bright. That was thematic. And I'm not sure the audience is going to love that. I don't see how they could. But it is what it is. So that's kind of the character stuff. So now I'm going to get into a few plot things. One example of the, terrible writing concerning the plot is, why did Kurt lie about Matt? I never felt like they answered that question real well. They did kind of, but let me go through kind of the chronology of how that all got answered. So, in fact, I'm pretty sure while they were, after they shot the entire show, they went back and shot one scene. There's a scene where Deborah, so right after Kurt says, oh, I found Matt, I talked to him, I FaceTimed him, and they found out that he lied. The next show, they insert a scene at the very beginning where Deborah's got pictures on the wall and she's doing her cop thing, and she says, well, Kurt, you know, he said he lied about finding Matt, so because he thinks this guy actually killed Matt, so he's trying to get the heat off of the Matt investigation so he can go after this guy. You see that? And then that scene was standalone. They never went anywhere with that line at all. There was nothing ever even mentioned about that guy again in the entire show. That apparently Deborah said, you know, Dexter's conscience, right? Deborah said that Kurt wanted to go after this guy. That guy was never even again mentioned. So I don't understand. Maybe that was a scene they had in there and then they decided to do rewrites on location and go another way or something. I don't understand that scene at all. It confuses me. It's like, why is it even in there? You know, or there's another scene where Dexter pulls a check out of Kurt's desk and says, there's a check for $5,000 to this guy. Why does Kurt owe, or what does this guy owe Kurt? Or why does Kurt owe this guy? And then he puts it back in his desk. And then there's nothing, at least nothing that I remember. Freaking weird, awful plot writing. Let's see what else there is. So then, you know, Dexter, even after that scene with Deborah, he's you know, for like 3 or 4 episodes, he's asking himself, well, why did Kurt lie? Right? And then, you know, the Angela comes up with a theory that Kurt didn't want him to go search up in the caves because that's where the dead body of Angela's old friend was. And so, you know, they go up there and they find the dead body. And so this apparently, you know, ties it all together for Angela's theory, which was, you know, he canceled the, you know, he said he found Matt because he didn't want him to go to the cave. You know, some people might think that's pretty smart writing, and you know, I just found it kind of loose and, you know, patched together. I don't know. Anyways, so maybe I should just read this. So one example of terrible writing is they didn't do a good job answering the question, why did Kurt lie about seeing Matt? In fact, I'm pretty sure while shooting the entire show, they intended to leave that question open and never answer it. So what they did is they added a scene that they shot after all the filming and made it in the first scene of the very next episode. Most people might have missed it. It was a scene where Deborah had it all lined out on the wall. She said that, you know, she did it to get the heat off the Matt investigation so Kurt could go after the guy that he thought did it. You know, of course, that plot never went anywhere, but Dexter, for some reason, kept asking himself, why did Kurt lie? It did end up with Angela's theory that Kurt lied about talking to his son because she was going to look in the cave, which then, of course, did lead her to thinking that, you know, that Kurt was a suspect for her friend Iris's death, which is how they tied it up. Some might think that's decent writing, but to me, it's pretty weak and patched together, especially the Deborah scene that went absolutely nowhere. I don't even really understand why they put that in there. Maybe it was a storyline they were going to go down on and decided to change the writing on location. Pretty strange. So I have a bit about Batista's role is probably the most obvious plot problem, right? Batista's part in New Blood was so forced and sloppy as I've ever seen in my life, and few people disagree with that. you know, Angela running into him at the conference, and he just happens to mention Dexter, and then he's rolling into town, and they end the show before he even gets there. It's pretty awful. So this is really important and good writing stuff here. If you like writing for movies, you know, so there's a bunch of corny kind of one-liners, like really super corny from all the characters. Okay, you know, Logan had a bunch of them. You know, Dexter had some, and, you know. So I'll get into that. So. So there's a thing that beginners writers do, okay? They think it's smart. What they do is they insert these sharp little quips or standard kind of one-liners, okay, for characters. And they did this all throughout the New Blood season. And this was never in the original, okay? I mean, maybe a few, but very little compared to this New Blood. So it's a rookie mistake, okay? Because good writers know not to give the characters smart dialogue like that. You know, good writers try to write the characters for what the characters would actually say. You know, that's the whole point of having different characters, right? You know, and so they're trying to be clever when they do this, but it does not work because not all your characters are smart to start with, right? So they shouldn't be saying smart things. The characters are just who they are. That's why they call them characters. So, you know, when a character says something kind of smart and quippy out of place, what it does is it smacks you in the face and it takes you out of the moment. Okay? You know, because what you do, you know, you're supposed to be kind of in a trance by this motion picture in front of you, right? You're supposed to be, you know, immersed in it. And what happens is you realize that it's not actually the character saying that, it's the writer. And that happens so many times in New Blood. I mean, at least a handful, like a half a dozen or something. I'm going, whoa, that was stupid. That was so corny. And what's going on? No, you know. And maybe that's just me because I'm so, you know, critical of this stuff, and I'm a pro and all that, but I really think it's not good. You know, I think that even if it's a subconscious thing, people notice it. You know, they get taken out for a second, and you don't want to do that. You really don't. You know, it causes characters to not have individuality or depth. You know, it's really a rookie mistake, and it happened a lot in New Blood, okay? And, you know, who knows why. These people are not supposed to be rookies that are doing this, but man, that was bad. So the score and the music was also really bad. Just all bad and inappropriate for the situations most of the time. You know, they only revisit the original score that we love so much one time. And that was during the flashback scene where he killed the clown, right? Where he was telling Harrison about his kill. And you know, and boy, we loved that old score so much. You know, it was, you know, in that scene where they did it just once in New Blood, it was so cathartic. It was like, oh, there's Dexter. There's Dexter. But, you know, the rest of the time, there was almost no score at all. Very little music. I can't understand why they do that unless they didn't want people to like the show. I mean, I understand it's a different show, it's a different tone and all that, but damn. I mean, how do you give up that original score or not bring in a new great score or something? Because, man, that, you know, those old Dexter tunes, those are like the most recognizable little tunes in television in the last 2 decades. How do you get rid of those? I don't understand that. You know, I mean, I understand they don't really fit the tone. Fine. Bring in a new score. something that we like, something that's good, you know? I mean, that Dexter stuff, it's almost like John Williams' Star Wars. It's so good. It's not, you know, I mean, it's getting up there towards that. It's the original Dexter score, you know, but yeah, I was just gone in New Blood. And so, you know, if you wanted people to like the show, why in the hell would you get rid of those tracks? It doesn't make any damn sense to me. And frankly, even the sound production was bad, okay? There's lots of ambient noise and like clothes rustling and shoes, you know, shuffling and stuff like that, you know, tapping. And, you know, that stuff is really not supposed to happen on a, you know, on a big production. It's just not. It's weak sound quality. So, you know, another thing they did is they gave us, after every show, they gave us next week on Dexter. And then they showed you what was going to happen next week. I mean, I don't know who wants to see that crap. I don't know why they do that, but they do it. I don't know if they used to do that with old Dexter or not. I don't think so. They might have, but, you know, I don't know. And then even in the beginning, in the intro, so that was in the outro. They'd give you next week on Dexter after the show. And then in the beginning of each show, they'd give you a quick flash forward, like 5 seconds of everything, a lot of stuff that's going to happen. I never understood that. I don't know why they do that. It makes no sense to me. But that's it. Anyways. The main thing is that all throughout the first 8 seasons, I might have shook my head and told myself that's stupid or that doesn't make sense, you know, just a few times. You know, 8 seasons. And, you know, I'm not the sharpest guy. I don't always pick up on all that stuff, so I'm pretty easy. And, you know, in the first 8 seasons, you know, I might have gone, oh, Dexter shouldn't have done that, or that's dumb, that doesn't make sense to the plot. You know, a small handful of times, 3 or 4, maybe 5. But in the 9th season, I did it several times, every single show, okay? And that should not happen. You know, it just shouldn't happen on a great production, you know, on a good production. And so, you know, this was just very poor writing, and that's a pretty universal sentiment from the writers I've heard from, you know, the film professionals that I've heard reviews on Dexter, New Blood, and so, yeah. And I think we could have forgiven some of that with a really great ending. You know, I think if there was a really great ending, we could have forgiven some of that writing. So this is my second option, which is, I think, unlikely, but is possible, is that they intentionally sabotaged the season. I haven't ruled this out completely yet, just because it's so bad. But, you know, the only reason I think that they would do that is because the network may have pissed off the filmmakers. Or I think it's even possible that they actually didn't like the fans, which to me is slightly understandable. The fans were pretty unappreciative of the first finale in season 8, and I personally thought the finale was great, really dramatic and climactic writing, but I was apparently in the minority. A lot of people were upset about that first finale, but you know, I do think that the scenario of intentional sabotage is less likely, but the writing and some of the other aspects were just so insanely bad, I can't exclude it entirely. Like maybe, you know, since they never get Michael Hall, they knew they'd never get Michael Hall to play the role of Dexter again, that they actually wanted people not to like the final series. So, you know, no one would ask for it to come back. You know? Maybe that was Michael Hall's doing. I don't think so, you know. But there's just really no way to know for sure. But we know that, you know, writing and production design was truly very bad. I mean, it can't be denied. You know, just so much of it was just so off. The last thing is, I've pretty much abandoned my idea that the filmmakers have some kind of recompense planned with a couple of episodes in the can to fill in the plot holes. Okay, for a while I was hoping that they might come in with, you know, a couple of pre-shot episodes that would fill in all these terrible holes. You know, like Batista rolling into town, and you know, like I toyed with the idea that, you know, Harrison might have been given a code by Hannah, and he was there to vet Dexter and whatever serial killer was taking out those girls. And you know, unfortunately, after rewatching the series, I'm leaning away from that idea. You know, I still don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I think it's super unlikely. I think it's just really bad writing. You know, I think that Harrison is exactly as plain as he seems. I was really hoping he had that inner monologue, you know, going on. His own, you know, manipulation, his own code before he reached Iron Lake. But I just don't see it. You know, and so, you know, yeah, there's just too many things that lead me away from that idea. Like him trying to leave Iron Lake twice. Okay, he tried to leave twice, and once he was stopped by Dexter, and once he was stopped by Kurt. And his emotional up and downs, or like how he reacted to Kurt being cut up, you know, after Dexter killed him. He got pretty sick and emotional about it and stuff, and you know. So I seriously doubt the filmmakers are going to reveal this kind of thing anytime soon or at all. Just forced very bad writing. But even after watching the entire season, I don't find it impossible for this to be the case, which would be an awesome way to fill a lot of the holes in the New Blood season, and possibly even reboot a Harrison season. Because, you know, I do think we might actually see a Harrison season in LA, just because there is an audience there for it. But, you know, I'm so disappointed in New Blood. I don't know if I could watch it. You know, again, if New Blood would have ended a little better, like in a spectacular fashion, I could have probably looked past all the plot stuff and the terrible writing and, you know, the just dreary ness and the downness and the negative, you know, just the unlikability of New Blood. But yeah, let's see here. So I would have seriously loved to see Dexter and Harrison cruise off into the sunset together to Los Angeles as a vigilante serial killer duo. Can you imagine how many targets they'd have in the cesspool of LA, right? You know, and even if that show never materialized, I just like that idea, right? I like the idea of Dexter being out there. I don't agree that they had to kill him, but Michael Hall really wanted to kill him. Apparently, some of the fans wanted to kill Dexter. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, yes, he's a serial killer. He's awful in ways. He's destroyed lives, but he's also, you know, he's fictional for one, and he's saved so many lives by killing killers. That's what he does. Just like our superheroes do, they kill killers, right? And so, I would have loved to seen them drive off to LA. But Michael C. Hall didn't want that. They wanted him dead, and so he's dead. Dexter's dead. I mean, I kind of hope they don't bring him back to life or something like, oh no, he's not dead. He got shot in the heart, but he survived, or something like that, or he faked his death. That'd be awful. So yeah, really sad and stupid end to by far one of the best characters in television history. Dexter's dead. Now, you know, again, Harrison does have the code now, right? Dexter taught him the code. Maybe he'll be able to stick to it this time, where Dexter couldn't, or maybe he'll go off and have a normal life like they have in the end of the finale. And, in which case, there is no more show, right? I mean, we don't want to watch Harrison go have a normal life, do we? No, we like the naughty Dexter. So, but in conclusion, okay, the good news is that, as I was saying, before about season 9, is that Dexter really wasn't even Dexter anymore. And that's kind of good news, because you don't have to acknowledge this 9th season as a part of the Dexter show if you don't want to. They changed his character so dramatically that may as well have been played by a different actor. Dexter was simply a shadow of who he was before. Not even the same guy, if that. And so, he was hardly recognizable at all. So why even consider this 9th season as part of the franchise? I, for one, I think I'm going to do my best to forget season 9 even happened. I'm going to think of Dexter out there somewhere doing his vigilante thing and keeping the streets clean, of many of the real scumbags as he can, because that's where I like Dexter, is out there keeping, knowing he's out there and killing the bad guys. I really was rooting for Dexter to kind of refine his craft, right? Refine his code, to never, to be able to live his life without destroying the lives of others and take out the bad guys. That's what I wanted for Dexter. That, I think, is the best possible ending, isn't it? Isn't that the best of all worlds? Where, Dexter gets to live on and not cause harm to people that don't deserve it, and keep the streets clean. I mean, that's why we love Dexter, right? So, and that's the way the season 8 finale kind of ended to me, right? I mean, he was like a logger or something, and very conflicted. And so we sat there and we watched that. He's sitting at his table and he's looking out his window, and the screen goes black. So it was open to our imaginations what Dexter might be up to. And, the filmmakers for season 9 took it in the direction where, he abstained from killing for the last 10 years, or doing his vigilante thing. And that's the way they decided to go with it. But, to me, I was hoping that he'd refined those skills, that he had, started a new life somewhere where he was keeping the streets clean, But no, they went this very down, very dark, very depressing route. And then they killed him. I mean, that's what's happened. I haven't even heard a statement from the filmmakers about how awful the finale was received yet. And I don't know if they're going to give us one. They might just ignore it. it's really too bad. You know, I think it's too bad for them too, because again, that stuff sticks to you in Hollywood. You know, you bad reviews, they don't like that stuff generally. You know, that sticks to you a while. You don't get jobs and stuff. They'll go, "Oh, you're Dexter, and you ended that show badly." You know, Michael C. Hall. We don't know if we want, you know, you to lead our movie now. A lot of people don't like you now because you killed Dexter. You know, and it's the same with the writers and, you know, some of the other actors. Although I think the show probably did help a couple of actors like Harrison. He might get jobs. I don't know. He's pretty unliked right now. But Angela, you know, Julia Jones did really great. And I think she'll probably get more jobs. And Kurt. Anyways, so that's my my video, which is my theories have been confirmed, right? About, you know, the basically just subpar writing, and yeah, I think that's it. But there's good news. You don't have to even consider season 9 as part of the franchise if you don't want, okay? Just wipe it from your memory if you want to, you know what I mean? Because again, Dexter was not the same guy. Totally different. Totally different guy. So, different show. Maybe look at it that way. Anyways, I should wrap this up. We're probably over an hour by now, but I'm Jason Miller, and this is The Truth and Stuff. And this will probably be the last Dexter review I'll ever do. I hope it's not, but it probably will be. So, that's it. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope to see you back for more.